Why don't we just have you introduce yourself, tell us about your organization. You explained it to me last night. That was very interesting, and that'll set the stage for who you are.
Sure. My name's Urson Russell. I live in Southern California in Orange County, a lifetime resident of California. Um, 2020 happened. Before that, just a normal voter that just checked boxes, really was tuned out from the whole political landscape as we've learned. And so 2020 just created curiosity more than anything. I screams of fraud and China running our elections and machines flipping votes and things. So I just had an interest to learn more about it and to understand it. So met a group of individuals online in 2021. Eventually we started Patriot Force California, which is our organization now, in October of 2021. And looking at all of the different activities that all the different groups around California or around the United States were doing, we saw at the time that really like an education program on our elections and election integrity was really missing. There was a lot of different efforts during elections, but really training people and doing the things to educate them we saw was missing. So that was one of our missions that we set out to accomplish. And then the second one was, it seemed like there was a cycle of civic duty where you do all this work for elections, but then elections happen, you get good people into office, and then we're not holding them accountable, we're not supporting them, we're not making them engage with their community, especially at the local level. So those two things is really the narrow lane that we've focused on. Traditionally, Patriot Force California doesn't train at poll observers or poll watchers, but I live in Orange County, and so I wanted to take the opportunity this year to really introduce as many people to this system that in our county is going to process well north of 1 million ballots through signature verification, ballot duplication, adjudication, and on and on and on and on and on. So that is part of the tenet of education that our organization is behind. But as an individual, I'm just in there as Urson Russell, citizen of Orange County, and inviting other citizens to come and see the election infrastructure and learn about it. There's another organization called Election Integrity Project California, and they do poll watching and poll observer training and so forth. So I've seen some of their people in there. But for the last 3 years, I've traveled to 24 counties up and down the state and have given speaking, presentations in multiple counties. And I'm going to continue to do so over the next couple of years, even though the elections are over. We've got to spread this information and evangelize others on why our elections are so important and what's achievable. What are our real challenges here in California, and then what are the action items to accomplish those? So that's pretty much me in a nutshell.
And how do we find you online? Do you have a website? Are you on X? Is there?
PatriotForceCA.org is our website,
Uh,
and you can find us on X under Patriot Force California. We have not, to this point, been set up to be a huge social media, like outgoing presence.
Go over for us the issue with the bomb threat the night of the election.
So it was on Friday night. I had left about 5:30. I usually kind of do a 4-hour shift. And so I started getting texts and messages somewhere around 7 o'clock. I believe it was around 6:45 or so is when things started to happen. My understanding from people that were there was that the sheriff's department was escorting out the observers, all of the public that was there, as well as any attorneys that were representing a party or an organization. I'm not sure all the attorneys that were there, but leaving the workers inside. And so where were they left? They supposedly went to some separate room to kind of be secured until they swept the facility for the bombs. Then at some point, they were let out. In the meantime, there was a couple of like truck vans that showed up, white, unmarked. No real. It wasn't the bomb squad or.
Pause there for a moment. This is Friday, so they're in the midst of counting.
Correct. And they were, it looks like, ended it either because of the bomb scare or because they were getting close to like the end of the evening. Sometimes they go till 7. But that week after, those few days after Election Day, they were really pulling some long hours, to try and catch up on
So
things.
let me go back over this, and because I want to slow it down just a little bit. On Friday, they're in the what is the name of the facility where they are counting?
It's the Register of Voters office. That's the main processing center for all of our vote by mail and drop box ballots.
All right. And so those are the two kinds of ballots that they're counting there. It's in the Register of Voters office or facility, and they're doing drop box and mail-in ballots. All
Correct.
right.
Right.
And do you have any idea how many people are counting and how many poll watchers that they're observing, or how many attorneys there were?
Well, so they move things around constantly as the process evolves, but to start with, signature verification, which every ballot, and there'll be over 1 million ballots that will go through this entire process in Orange County alone, every ballot envelope must be signature verified. And so there was 30 stations, and in Orange County, it's set up pretty nicely. There's a monitor behind the worker about 6 feet, and you can literally put your nose up to this monitor. So we get a pretty clear and clean purview. But there's 30 stations that have a combination of workers. Sometimes it's only 18, but around after the elections, every station was filled with people. And so we're watching this signature verification. We won't get into the details, but there is just multiple tiers of signature verification. So what
Well,
am I even looking at?
so first, were you there then the night on Friday? You were there on Friday when the bomb threat came in?
So not at 6:45. No, I
Okay.
was there till 5:30.
You were there till 5:30. So at 6:45, let's talk about um there's about 30 stations of counters, and
Of
how
signature verifiers,
signature verifiers, and how many are at each station? Is it one per station, or are there multiple? So there's 30
one
doing
worker.
one worker doing the signature verifications, and there's a monitor or a camera behind them about 6 feet, overlooking what they're verifying side by side. Are they verifying on a monitor, so they're pulling up the the original, or the signature that is used to verify against, and then the ballot
So
side by
they
side?
have a workstation with a monitor, and then behind them, their monitor is mirrored onto a bigger TV that we can view.
I
So
see.
it's not a camera looking over their workstation. We get to see their
It's a
monitor
mirrored
that they're
monitor.
looking at.
Now,
Right.
do they have, where is the original? Is it the voter registration where they sign the voter registration and that's the signature that's being used to verify against?
So it can be the original voter registration affidavit. It can be signatures from a digital poll pad at the DMV. It can be signatures from the digital poll pad when you go to vote in person. They can pull
Hmm.
up a history of your signatures in order to go and compare and try and find some matching characteristics.
Oh, I see. And I've never heard this before. Are you saying that at the DMV and elsewhere, they would be using a digital capturing device for making a signature? Because the reason I ask is I've never had my signature perfect on a digital device, right? It's very,
Exactly.
very, that should not, to me, be the way you would verify a signature, because it would introduce all kinds of variables that then the monitor who's verifying the signature says, oh, it's okay, it's okay, it's okay, because the bar has been brought too low. But I digress. What we're saying is there are 30 stations, one signature verifier at each station. There's a monitor that's reflected to a large monitor, and you're able to see side by side these signatures as they're being verified. So we're going to get into signature verification in a moment, but staying with the issue of the Friday night bomb threat, the there would also be some attorneys in there, probably for both sides. I'm assuming there are Democrat attorneys and Republican attorneys.
I would assume that as well.
Because they're there to do that job. Now, the bomb threat comes in, and what do they proceed to do? Because normally what I would assume is that an announcement would be made and everybody would be asked to exit the building. Somebody would be the last man in the room, right? Or the last woman in the room saying, yes, everybody's out. We're waiting for the police officers or a bomb squad or whatever, but we want to keep everybody safe, and they need to be outside the building because we don't know where that bomb is going to be, if there were a bomb. So what did happen?
So the sheriff's department escorted all the public out, so the observers, anyone with an organization, as well as the attorneys. From there, what happened to the people working for the county doing the process? What we're told
But they
is
did
that
not leave. They were
they did
not
not
taken out
leave,
of the building. So we have
not
the
originally.
public, poll watchers, the attorneys, any organizations, all the observers who are citizen voters, poll watchers, observers, legal counsel, who are there to disallow any kind of an attempt to defraud the vote or even make serious errors. That could also be the problem. They're there to verify all this, but the verifiers, the observers, are removed from the building. They're ensconced safely in the outside, and the workers, those 30 plus their their bosses, I'm assuming, to whomever they report, is still in the
So let's
building.
go back. Let's go back to 30 signature verifiers. That doesn't include the 25 people flattening ballots. That doesn't include the 20 to 25 people tabulating ballots. It doesn't include, so the 30 is just signature verification. There had to be probably 100 to 150 like workers in there easily amongst all the different processes and functions that were going on.
I'm sorry. How many observers do you think might be in the observation room or in front of those cameras? Just ballpark, 'cause I don't think you could know exactly, right?
So there, when you really get packed in there, they change the rules, and then they tell you that you can have no more than 2 people at any observation screen. Um, that Friday got packed out, and there was probably a couple hundred people on Friday at during the daytime. At 6:45 at night, I'm not sure, but I know a lot of people were still sticking around. On Saturday, they changed the rules and said no more than 100 people now observing, and we're going to, at every break, the ones that were in the morning have to leave, and then a new batch of 100 gets to go in after that to observe. So 30 screens, there's 60 people that you need just to do an effective job with
Is there
signature
one
verification.
Republican, one Democrat?
There's no rules regarding that. It's just simply in having 2 people. They've got 4 signatures at a time. They're verifying them so quickly, and with just one person,
4
it's
signatures at a time.
are being verified in the first round of signature verification.
So on the screen, there are 4 different signatures of 4 different voters.
Correct.
Oh,
4
wow.
records.
Okay. All right. So just
So
to be clear, we've got 100 to 150 workers, employees of the state of California in the room doing the work and um, managing the workers. And then we've got 60 to 100 or so observers.
correct.
Okay.
During the
Now,
daytime, there was well over 100, but at the evening, it had thinned out quite a bit when I had left at 5:30.
all right. So if So what is inexplicable? I don't even know what other question you could ask about this. They left the poll workers the election workers who work for the county in the room, the people who were supposed to be overseeing their work, were told to leave the building along with the attorneys.
Correct.
That's the bottom line.
That's the bottom line.
Presumably, bombs, if exploded, would kill public employees equally with their fellow citizens who are the observers of the public employees that are counting and doing the verification of the voters
Sure.
registration or signature. So
That would
did they
make common
give,
sense.
has anyone on camera or in email had any question answered regarding as to why they divided up the people that way and left the employees, the public employees in the room?
That would be a question for Bob Page, really, to answer directly. Through one of the articles, this wasn't even through someone that I knew that was there, but through one of the articles, they said that he had killed the video surveillance at some point around that time. And when asked why, it was because they were done counting and processing ballots for the evening, so they decided to stop the video surveillance. I kind of think that it should be going 24/7 for the 60 days of our election season, nonstop, and that just helps to eliminate any questions that anybody has. So what went on in there, you're going to have to take Bob Page's word for it, or if there was an employee that was willing to talk about it, which they probably have been told, don't talk about it. I know they did set up for a couple of days a crisis center inside for people that were having, emotional, challenges
All right, pause.
between
Let
being
me
there.
go
But
back. This is really strange. So the timeline of events is that the bomb threat is called in. The public and the poll watchers and attorneys are whisked outside. The
correct,
employees of the state remain
of
in the
county,
building, the county rather, I'm sorry. And then the cameras go off before or after this occurred.
right around the same time. I don't know the exact time that the cameras went off. That would be a good question for Bob Page. I think
But it's
another
about the
question
same
would be,
time that the cameras are placed there for what reason?
well, the cameras are supposed to be for this public transparency message, right? That look how transparent we are. You can watch and observe this just from the comfort of your home. But I think that those should be on all the time during
What reason
elections.
would CCTV, if they're at stoplights, if they're, by a liquor store or some other secure facility, um, they're going 24/7. They may not keep months worth of recordings. They may only keep
Right.
24 or 48 or 36 hours. Nevertheless, they go 24/7 because the burglar or the uh, other kind of a criminal, or it's just somebody who's speeding, that happens 24/7. And if someone is going to subvert the election, whether it be dropping off ballots, um, bringing suitcases of ballots in, vans, or other large vehicles driving up that are not verified as to whom they belong to or registered to, that could be at 3 o'clock in the morning. And what you're
Well, you
saying
have
is you just turned it back on in the morning when they start working again. And then when he says they're stopping work, then he turns it off.
yeah, and so the question is, was the video surveillance killed that night? And so, if so, what time, for what reason, and can we get the video surveillance footage that you had captured up until the time you stopped it? My understanding is it's not being recorded. It's just a live stream camera footage that's not actually being trapped. So don't take that as any sort of factual statement. Those are questions that should be asked, and he should be pressed on them to give real clarity
Are the
for the
video
public.
recordings all around the building, by the doors and the loading bays? Are they inside every room? The tabulation
No,
room? They're not
no,
inside the room.
They do have video surveillance, but what is available to the public is pretty limited compared to the total operation.
All right. So that's pretty much the are there any other details that you want to add to this Friday night bomb scare and what proceeded since then? Oh, well, let's talk about the trucks.
Right. Well, and I think someone should also reach out to the Orange County Sheriff's Department to get a statement of what they factually dealt with or what happened, and probably advisable to do that before you speak to Bob Page, so that you can have the other side of the information there. Um, as far as any other details, no details, just from a standpoint of public trust that's already been questioning the elections. I think it's just a real disconnect for the person running the elections to not realize how important and what this type of a thing does to people, from a bomb threat, let alone cameras being turned off, vans being shown up at 7 o'clock at night. Like,
The vans that showed up, it was after the bomb threat. They've
correct.
evacuated partially the public from the building, kept the employees, and they turned off the cameras. Then two white vans with opaque white windows, so you couldn't see into the big side windows on the vans. I've seen the video. Pull up to the loading bay or to the front door. Where did they pull up to in the registrar's office building?
I believe it was at the front at the beginning when they showed up. Whether they made it around to the loading bay or not, that could only be determined by seeing video footage from the surveillance cameras.
Which were turned
It's not,
off. And
is what we were told, correct?
this was a California resident or citizen that recorded these two vans pulling up on the night of the after the bomb scare or bomb threat was called in.
I think it's someone that was maybe with another news organization. I don't know if they live in Southern California or were just here, right? Like this is where they report from and things like that. So I don't know that person individually. I've been trying to find someone that would connect me with them,
So that would be
so
helpful
I
if
could get
anybody
some
seeing
firsthand.
this video would reach out on X to me at Elizabeth Farah, and again, give us your X account,
Patriot Force California.
Patriot Force California,
Yeah.
or email me at Elizabeth1 at WND, that's WorldNetDaily.com. So if you have any information regarding the two white vans that pulled up, if you were the one taking the video, we'd love to interview you and get more information. Isn't it odd that, well, okay, this is my characterization. A bomb threat is called in. The employees that are supposed to be being observed remain in the building. The observers and attorneys leave the building. They turn off the cameras, and then two unmarked white vans with opaque painted or however covered windows that were white and opaque pull up, and there's no video record. And have you seen any explanation?
No, I have not. I am in there every day for still a few more days. So if there are some questions that you'd like me to ask, I'm happy to pose those to Bob Page myself and report back. Um, I've not where my focus has been, because if ballots came in and there's no video footage and some white unmarked vans and everyone's kicked out and so forth,
There's nothing we could do about it.
yeah, I'm not the sheriff. I'm not an attorney. I'm a citizen. I'm there to just educate people and see this craziness. So, but I'm always comfortable asking him challenging questions. I've done it repeatedly now. So, just has not been a direct focus.
Yeah, okay. Um, let's move on to the absentee ballots or mail-in ballots and the military ballots.
Sure.
Talk to us about your concerns there.
Well, first, everyone in California that's an active eligible voter is going to get a vote-by-mail ballot mailed to them, whether they like it or not. There's no process to stop yourself from getting a vote-by-mail ballot. Most people are voting by mail, but now in California. So we had 1.87 million ballots that went out. We'll probably have, I don't know, or in the ballpark of 1.4 million ballots cast, and about 1 million of those or more are going to go through the entire process inside the Register of Voters office. All of the ballots that come in folded up in envelopes, and they're verified and go through the system. Now they've got to be flattened out so that they can be scanned. And when they flatten them out, they're also inspecting them. Every ballot in California has to be scanned by state law. That means if a voter didn't follow the instructions and fill out the box completely and just put a check mark, that the scanner supposedly cannot scan that, and now they have to be duplicated. So we watch that duplication process. It's very transparent. It's the original ballot and the duplicate ballot right on the screen in front of
Let's
you.
pause, because I think that this is confusing to a lot of people, and you explained it to me so well yesterday. A ballot comes in, and to scan it, it has to be presumably not significantly damaged, just the paper.
Yeah.
Additionally, it has to have the little circle completely filled in. Some people, you say, check it, put an X, put a smiley face, a heart, just ridiculous things because they don't read the directions. And that, if it goes through the scanner, may it may not be scanned at all, or it may even register something incorrectly. It's just not
Right.
scannable, properly scannable. So these ballots come in. And by the way, are these including, you said all voters get ballots. In Orange County, how many ballots are you saying are sent out, and how many are received through the mail?
Well, we have about 2 million ballots were sent out.
Hmm.
We have 1.87 million registered voters, but
In
about
Orange
2
County.
million plus in Orange County.
Okay.
Over 2 million ballots went out in total.
Uh-huh. And 1.4
Probably,
million come back?
well, 1.4 million in that ballpark would be all voters in person and vote by mail. But
Okay.
most people vote by mail or through the drop box, probably 70 to 80% of them.
Okay.
So of that 1.4 million, there's got to be about 1 million plus ballots that will go through this process
All
at the
right.
vote center.
So then they have to be, the envelopes are opened, and
After the signature verification,
because the signature is on an inside envelope, or is it on the outside?
outside,
Okay, so it's on the
yeah,
outside of the envelope. They verify the signature first. So those 30 tables we were talking about that were being observed, that happens first, four at a time on the monitor. And if they're
if
not
approved,
if approved, then they're flattened out.
then they'll be opened up
Then they'll be
and
opened
then
up,
extracted
extracted,
and then flattened and inspected.
flattened, and inspected. And that's where you're inspecting as to whether or not they filled it out properly.
So the ballot flatteners that are county staff or who are inspecting to see if it was filled out properly. The ones that are filled out properly will go to the tabulation and scanning room directly. If the ones that are not filled out correctly, those will go to the duplication area.
And this is a key. This is very, very important to understand. So the duplication area is where a ballot that's not scannable has to be duplicated, and it has to duplicate the actual vote that was made. So if it's it doesn't matter what party is, if they fill it out and they put hearts instead, then the duplicator is going to fill out another ballot by hand or by computer.
by computer for the majority of it that are handling the vote by mail and drop box ballots.
So they make
There
the
is hand,
duplicate in a computer and they click off all the votes, and then there are observers that are making sure that it really is a faithful duplicate.
correct. It's they scan the original ballot, and that computer software pre-populates all the boxes for the vote for the duplication. And then what you're looking at is, was the original matching what the digital duplication by the software was. The worker is fixing any errors, and that's what you get to watch. And then once that is saved, then that digital duplication will go to a second quality control station where a separate individual now is going to quality control check the work from the first person. All that is to just print a ballot that can be scanned. So all of that process, we get to observe it, but you're not always there and you don't have enough people. So there's a lot of times
That it's not
nobody is
observed.
watching.
Or two Democrats or three Democrats or three Republicans might be observing, but there's no guarantee that there's going to be a Republican or an equal representation of Republicans and Democrats watching. So that's really, to me, not verification, not in a political arena. So what is the problem with I mean, I can see some problems myself right there. But what is the problem, and was anything affected in this process as you've been observing the vote, tabulation and all the rest of it?
Sure. So it's pretty close to 60,000 ballot duplications that have been done for this vote by mail and drop box ballots that have come in. That's a huge number. And we have been able to track the races for president and for Senate, U.S. Senate in our state. When we track, let's just say an example of 100 ballots, and we track the president and Senate races for the digital duplication, we are always getting a random outcome. And that means in this 100 batch, it's 55-45 for one candidate. And the next 100, it's 57-43 for the other candidate. And it goes on and on like that in varying outcomes no matter what time or day.
Pretty much 40s and 50s, though.
In the ballpark. So you
Right.
might see a 60-40, but it's always random and switches favoring one candidate or the other.
Mm-hmm.
We
And
have
what is the
overseas.
significance of these 100 count batches? So there's 100 in a batch?
No, but it gives you a round number for a comparison of different tallies. And so the tallies for the digital duplication, again, which is all the vote by mail and drop box ballots, that always shows a random pattern of outcome of results. That's normal. That's typical. That's what you should expect to see. We also track the overseas ballots, which includes military personnel. The acronym for it is UOCAVA, and that stands for Uniformed Overseas Civilian Absentee Voting Act. Now those ballots can come in by fax, by email, be mailed in. When they come in by fax or email, they're not on paper that can be scanned. That process will be hand duplicated by someone, which we get to observe. And then also the quality control process. So as we were tallying up the overseas voters, 100 at a time, let's say a batch of 100 for an example, we never were able to find one batch, not one single batch, out of dozens and dozens that we tracked, where the results were not in the ballpark of 90 to 95% for Kamala Harris and 5 to 10% for President Trump. That isn't random. that defies all the rules of large pattern data sets. And when you've got 60,000 over here that's constantly random, and 4 to 5,000 over here that never breaks that pattern. Now, were we observing 24/7? Could there have been one batch that broke that pattern? Certainly there could have somewhere in there, because we're not there nonstop. But every one of the dozens of batches that we recorded of those overseas votes, we never, ever were able to see a pattern other than 95% for one candidate and 5 to 10% for the other. It never broke.
In
So
a
that
Orange County is pretty much a Republican county. I don't know what the breakdown of registrations between Republicans and Democrats. It's
about
one of the most conservative in the state, right?
it is one of the most conservative, but in the last 5-6 years, there's been some surprising major shifts over towards more of a liberal ideology and governance. So explain that for whatever reason, people not paying attention, more money spent, elections being, rigged, whatever combination of a death by 1,000 cuts. But
Good point. So to summarize this, when these 50 or 60,000 um,
digital
ballots,
duplicates.
digital duplicates are being counted. There's the whole verification process, duplication and verification process. But when they are being counted, for every 100 that are being counted, there's always 45-55 or 55-45 or 47-50. It's always within, I'm not sure what you call this center, this middle ground where, um, I don't know, is that the median? I'm just not very good at these mathematical terms, but the point is they're very close and they're random. They go back and forth. It might be Kamala Harris. It might be Donald J. Trump. It's
It
45
might
to
be
50.
50-50,
It might be
you know?
50-50. Exactly.
Yeah,
In a batch of 100. But
correct.
you're rarely, if ever, going to see a 99-1, right?
Or that we're going to see, like, say, 6-7 batches in a row that we're tracking, all favoring just one candidate.
There you go.
It never ever hit. It never developed that pattern. It was always back and forth from one candidate to the other, depending on the 100 random ballots that we selected,
But in the
which is
overseas,
normal. That's typical.
right. But in the overseas ballots, where the people have less control over the process, there's less, I think, visibility, and I think there's just more opportunity. Now, that's my characterization, that if somebody is in France or England or the Middle East
Right.
voting and sending it in, that distance is going to allow for maybe the opportunity to introduce greater possibilities of fraud, election fraud.
100%.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, Elizabeth, we can't knock on those doors. And the only verification that the county or the state does is to send out a little confirmation card. That's, they follow the process and they go, we did what we were required to do. They filled out under penalty of perjury. This is them, and we don't question anything beyond that.
And they don't get a
So it's a grave
verification. You
concern.
voted for Harris or Trump or whatever the senatorial candidate is. They're just getting a verification that we have received and we have processed your vote, your ballot.
Correct. And the concern isn't over president and or Senate per se. This is a data point, right, and a factor that should be looked into, because they don't match. There's no randomness in the overseas voters. What is a concern is that a lot of states only allow this class of voters, overseas UOCAVA voters, they only allow them to vote in federal races. but our state legislature at some point, and I'm sorry I forgot the date when this was passed, they said that all overseas voters can vote down ballot. So
Mm.
someone that lives in France that has no intention of ever coming back to California and living in your community gets to have a say in who your city council representation is. That is the bigger concern. That is what local people should be greatly questioning and wondering, why do we have all of these people that are favoring one political ideology that don't even live in our own community being able to have a say in who's going to oversee my kids in school, who's going to oversee my local governance.
So I see two or three things
The
happening here.
propositions for the state. Like if you live in France, how do you know what Prop 36 is about? Now maybe they sent you a voter guide and a booklet and told you how to vote as well, but there's so many things to investigate in that class of voters.
What about candidates right now where the races have not been called?
Michelle Steele seems to be the one that's the closest in contention right now for the two in Southern California here. I think there's a couple others in other parts of California. If I were, managing a campaign or a candidacy, that's where one of the big areas that I would be focused would be in those overseas voters.
Right now
The
I
issue,
see, excuse me, I'm sorry. I see two candidates, Derek Tran, Michelle Steele. Derek Tran is a Democrat. Michelle Steele is a Republican. And
yes,
the total votes on this particular, let me see if I've got a date here. This is November 16th. For the Democrat, 50.01% for the Democrat, and for the Republican, 49.99%. It is a difference of, whoa, it's a difference of like 40 votes.
yeah. So that's obviously
Less
updated.
than 40 votes.
Right. So that's obviously updated. And the challenge with Michelle Steele's candidacy or run for office is she's one of those few weird ones where she actually has part of her district is in Orange County, a majority of it, and then she has a little sliver in LA County. And so that, like right now, the current results are 140,000 and change for Michelle Steele. Derek Tran's 136,000 and change. So she's got almost a 4,000 vote win delta right now in Orange
And so that
County.
was a
But then,
gerrymandering thing where they changed the
right,
districts so that they could introduce Los Angeles voters into Orange County and therefore
right.
flip it to blue. But let's just focus right now. I just did the math. It wasn't hard. 36 votes total is the
As
difference
of the 16th. Yeah.
as of the 16th. My point here is that should be well within see the problem with a recount if you introduce, and this is all because of the lack of transparency and the obvious holes in um their process, their system. I mean, there's holes everywhere. This is Swiss cheese. Even if they recount, they could be recounting bad ballots where no signature verification should have been approved, where the ballots are coming from overseas, 90 or 95 out of 100 coming in for Kamala Harris and the down ballot Democrats. So if you have a recount, it may not even be fair. And this is sort of what the public often sees. Well, they recounted it. And also the Democrat or the regime media, they'll say, well, look, they recounted in this county. Yeah, they
Right.
recounted after two white vans pulled up and after 90 to 95% of Orange County residents in the military. I mean, imagine in the military, 90 to 95% of the military voting for Kamala Harris. I'm not
Sure.
saying it couldn't be 51 to 49. I still even think that's unlikely. But 90 to 95 out of every 100 servicemen voting for Kamala Harris over Donald J. Trump. That's stretches credulity.
Yeah, so let's say you sell something for $1,000 and someone gives you 50 $20 bills. You take them in and deposit them into your bank and they go scan them and they say, no, 3 of these are fake bills. You no longer have $1,000, right? There's a very simple, easy way to determine whether a bill is genuine or not. We don't have that system for our ballots. And there's literally no means to go and define on whether this is coming from a real voter, whether the voter actually filled this ballot out. The signature matching is such a low threshold that it leaves nothing but questions. And unfortunately, all of it's built on trust. Just trust us that the process is going to work. Just trust us that this person didn't get tired. Trust us that this person didn't have a bad night and was just kind of like over it. Trust us, this person that's looked at tens and tens of thousands of little boxes isn't getting a little battle fatigue.
Well, trust is
Just
that
trust
somebody
all
can
that.
look at 4 signatures at once, and some of the verifying signatures are digitally created. So when the
Right.
UPS guy comes to your door and you sign and you say, oh, forget it, or a DocuSign, you start to sign it with your finger or whatever, and it looks like a 2-year-old just signed your signature and you just sort of give up. So this lowers the standard for the signature verifier because they see this digital signature, and I am sure they're not going to hold it to the same level of scrutiny or threshold of similarity that they would if they saw 2 pen by hand signatures side by side. That you should be able to easily verify if you're not as sleepy and confused and or overwhelmed with 4 at a time. I can't even imagine. You know,
And you as the public can't say anything to stop it, Elizabeth. If you see someone blatantly accept a signature that had no matching characteristics, you can't go and say, I'm challenging that signature verification. We tracked a guy that did 300 signatures in 6 minutes. That's 0.6 seconds per signature. We cannot go and say he's going too fast. There's all those limitations that we have as the public on our own elections so that these processes can just go as fast and as uncontrolled as they want them to. And there's no supervisor on the floor that's spot checking people, watching are they
I don't
going too
believe in
fast
spot
or
checking anyway. When it comes to a vote, if a million Orange County residents vote, a million are legal voters. They're citizens of the United States. Then exactly 1 million should be counted. And anything that is over and above and outside of that, someone who's not a citizen of the United States, somebody who's a felon, somebody who is practically comatose and has a nurse voting for
someone
them,
that
and
didn't vote. Right.
or someone who
Yeah.
didn't vote, dead people, all of those votes don't count because they counter a legitimate voter. So the spot checking is not even an acceptable thing in my humble opinion. I would say this, that in the last 4 years, well, we have had the technology to do a far more robust job, a job of actually, we could have reached by now, and we have the technology available to us, if the will were only available to us, to have almost 100% perfect elections every time. Because between AI, between camera technologies and databases and QR codes and everything else, you could eliminate any possibility of election fraud or voter fraud.
Yes, you could. The concern that I have with moving more and more towards technology is how do you as the voter that is not an expert in these technologies, you still are building on trust that these systems and processes are all working flawlessly. Boeing 747 spends how many billions of dollars on process and quality control, yet they still have planes with issues.
Let me do a
That's just a
caveat.
fact.
I didn't mean with the technologies. What I am saying is this. Um, someone sends in a ballot. Once the verification process, whether it's right or wrong, verifies that that is a legal ballot from a legal voter, there's no name, there's no code. The voter has no name or code or a QR code or an alphanumeric code on that ballot that's individualized for every single ballot. If there were a database where every single, like a dollar bill, has a unique identifying number, alphanumeric, if that was sent to a residence or any kind of an address and a name attached to it as well, if all of those are in a database, the ability to go back if there's a problem with one ballot and verify to see and by the way, the other problem is if you verify that, say, 1,000 dead people voted, you don't know who they voted for. So you
Correct.
can't find the ballot to pull it out to rectify it. So you're saying that somebody can be observing, and a man who verifies 300 signatures in 6 minutes is a fraud and a cheat. I'll just say it. I'll say it to his face. You're a fraud and you're a cheat. 300 signatures in 6 minutes. Um, whatever other problems with ballots that there are, you cannot go back. I mean, you cannot say as an observer um, that this is that you're challenging that particular ballot and that it has to be taken out of the system and verified separately.
Yeah, you have no rights to do that. So if I walk up and said, this person is going too fast, they verified 300 signatures in 6 minutes, we would be told there is no requirement for how long you have to take to verify a signature. Any other questions? And that's it. That's the limits of your abilities as the public in California.
Knowing what you do know, is it possible that the votes in Orange County are going to be inaccurately tabulated? The results will not be correct.
I not only do I think it's possible, I think that it's plausible. When you say counted correct, I have no or very little concerns that the actual paper that came in is going to match what was scanned into the computer system. I have very, very low concerns about that being an issue. What I have concerns with is are the paper from actual legitimate voters? And the system isn't designed to be able to really verify and check those or to do investigations afterwards to mitigate risk. What we get told in our elections is, well, there's fraud in every election, but it's not enough to overturn an election. That is not the threshold. That is a false threshold to make you feel like everything is okay. As we talked about last night, if your credit card was compromised from some $17 charge at a pizza joint in Chicago, and we call the bank, and we go, hey, I was defrauded, they don't go, well, call us back when it's $500. Organizations like banks, industry, law enforcement are constantly in the mode of risk mitigation so that it doesn't turn into something that is a really big issue. And so we're not doing those things in our election systems. We have a logic and accuracy test. Well, that's great. That's testing software and a system. That's not looking at the BIOS level forensic image analysis of the computer systems. And I won't go into all of those. So whether these ballots are from legitimate voters, whether these hundreds and hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of signatures that we've logged that should have been at least gone through some higher level of scrutiny, watching these ballot duplications that are going on into the tunes of tens of thousands and then breaking the normal rules of pattern analysis, it's absolutely plausible that the real results that will be reported from Orange County will not be the actual real results of a true voter intention, free, fair, transparent election system. And that is not a dig on the Register of Voters office or any staff that are there doing it. The state controls our elections in California, and the counties are trained to follow process. That's it. That's the crux of the issue. You don't have people that were trained to run a bank. If they brought that experience into our elections, they would be run completely differently. But we have people that come from government, and that's most of what their career has been. And they know about following process and a system. And don't ask a lot of questions because that might create a lot of extra work.
You said that normally, according to banking, that there should be a very, very low rate of acceptable mistakes in a system. But you said that
Right.
probably right now, I think that there should be, say, maybe an allowance for up to 100, and they have 2 million errors in the system.
And that's across the entire state. That's not just Orange County.
So 2
So the
million
banking
errors
system,
when a banking system
right,
would have produced less, 100 or less.
correct. It's 1 in 125,000 errors can occur. And it's not just in ballot scans, that's in the entire election infrastructure. So let's say that a check scanned correctly for $1,072.18, but it went into the wrong deposit account. Well, it scanned it just fine, but it went to the wrong person. And that system would be considered an error. And that's the actual threshold we have for elections. It doesn't seem like that threshold is being followed or really widely recognized for the risk that it creates. From at least seeing the processes as they currently are. So we have a long way to go if we're going to keep using these systems to meet other industry standards.
Urson, will an election integrity um, bill in Congress